Joining us now is Dale Earnhardt Jr., and he drives the number 88 National Guard Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. Dale, you're coming off one of the best seasons you've had in the Sprint Cup Series. You've won a lot of races here at Daytona, including the Daytona 500, and looks like you've got a pretty good race car so far here during Speed Weeks. Maybe just talk about your outlook and how you think things are shaping up for the number 88 team.
We got a good car, and this car has a ton of preparation and time put into it compared to even the backup car. So we're just hoping we can get through the qualifying race without any problems, and get through the rest of the practices and be able to deliver this car to the starting grid on Sunday. Because I think it's got it gives us the best opportunity to win the Daytona 500. So just sort of, going through the processes this week and trying to learn what we need to learn and trying to find what we can out of the car in additional speed, and was able to do a little bit of that yesterday with practice in the evening. Otherwise, it's been pretty uneventful.
Questions for Dale? If you have one, raise your hand. Claire over here to the far right, and then Dustin.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Dale, after what we saw yesterday in the practice sessions, what you said the other day seemed to make a lot of sense as people were talking about it. Was that the result of some aggressiveness or side drafting, or what did you feel out there on the track in the practice, and what are your thoughts?
I wasn't out there in the accidents that we had. Obviously, I think Cole cut a tire off of something that came off another car. That created the first accident. The second accident was just a product of the side draft, and these cars get stuck beside each other a whole lot easier than anything we've ever drove down here, and ever since I've been driving down here. Whether it's the fenders being flared and the wheel wells not sealing up to the tires, or something going on. There's something going on with these cars. We had it last year. We noticed it last year when we first raced them at the plate tracks, where they sort of get stuck beside each other. And you got to be, you just kind of sit there beside someone until somebody pushes you by. And when everybody sort of gets jammed up behind a couple guys that are stuck beside each other, you have what we had in the second accident was just about 12 cars really packed up tightly behind a couple guys that were sitting there drafting side by side without any help, and a couple guys were trying to get out of the draft. I think Parker Klingerman said he was trying to get out of the draft, and a couple guys were trying to get in the draft with the 5 and a 27. So I mean, just it's a challenge in practice, and you got cars trying to pull out of the pack, and got cars blending into the pack, and it makes things a little bit challenging sometimes.
We'll go to Dustin, Lewis, and then Alan Cabana.
DustinLongMRN.com. Certainly for all your recent success, particularly in the Daytona 500 last few years, in one sense, do you still find it, I guess, stunning, mystifying, or make you, I guess, maybe angry that you haven't won a plate race? It's been so long. I mean, yeah. I think a lot of people would be surprised. And do you look back at certain races and kick yourself, or just that's the way it is?
If I had to do that, I'd be spending a lot of time kicking. But, yeah, I don't have time to do that, to be honest with you. And I've run second in the last 3 out of 4 Daytona 500s. That's not, neither one of them were a win, but that's nothing to be ashamed of. And I still feel like that we run well enough at these tracks for me to continue to come into them with confidence and just in myself, regardless of the car. And I still feel like that I do run at the trigger plates rather well and understand how the draft works rather well, and still enjoy racing at them. I hope that that's always the case. It's a different challenge every time you come back, and that makes it enjoyable. The packages may change, and maybe the package doesn't change, but the dynamic weather and the track surface changes, so the way that you draft is always different no matter what.
Go to Lewis, Allen, and then we'll go to Mike Embry.
Lewis Frank Reuters. With the return of pack racing and the incidents in the Unlimited and yesterday in practice, is that a predictor of a wild and woolly 500 on Sunday?
I hope not. I think that, the qualifying races have me a little nervous because they're at night, and just the running at night is going to be unique and new for everybody for the qualifying races. And you just hope everybody realizes, that we got the Daytona 500 still to run on Sunday, and that this ain't for all the marbles yet. So as much fun as it is to run and win a qualifying race and sort of set the tone for your team, you definitely want to go out and try to win those races. Again, you don't want to be pulling out a backup for the 500 if you don't have to. You'd definitely rather start your primary car, because the preparation and time and development into the primary car is vastly superior to the backup, and that gives you the best opportunity to win on Sunday. But I think the 500 miles, just saying that, changes everybody's demeanor and changes everybody's approach to that race. This race, those wrecks in practice definitely surprised me. I think it surprised a lot of people. And I hope it's just a product of cars trying to get out of the draft and cars blending in, and guys sort of got put in a bad position that they couldn't get out of. I think definitely this package and the way it drafts is bringing things a lot closer together and making things, guys are racing double file more often. And but that's good. We need that. We definitely didn't race enough in the Daytona 500 last year. You couldn't race. You just go to the back. You couldn't risk pulling out because you just didn't know if you'd going to the rear was a likely result. So we won't really have that this year. I have to worry about that because the bottom seems to be able to put together runs, and so that's going to make for a better race. But hopefully, we've been able to race side by side here forever. I think we can do it Sunday without any trouble, put on a great show.
Let's go to Alan, Mike Embry, and then Stan.
Alan Cavana, NASCAR.com. It seems like you have a good ability to adapt at these play tracks when they do make rule changes. Would you agree with that, and does that give you an advantage on Sunday when there are some new rules and a new style, if you will, out there on the track?
I definitely try to keep an open mind and try to understand how the packages have and the changes, whether it be a little bit of spoiler or open up the plate or closing the plate up, how that does change the draft and how it changes the way you get runs and the way the car is going to react to runs. And so you sort of predetermine and pre-estimate what's going to happen out there as you're driving around the track. I feel like I do that well, and I feel like that's been able to be a part of my success at these places. And, just trying to finish off the job has been a little bit difficult in the last several years, but we've still had some good runs and be able to maintain our good track position throughout the races. And when we've got, good cars, we've been able to put them toward the front. So, I think you just have to have an open mind. What you learn when you first start racing at these tracks is important, but that's how it works is always changing, and you got to be ready for that. You can't expect it to react the exact same time every time you come back here. And how the cars side draft, for lack of a better word, they're a little more frustrating to side draft with now because you can use you used to use a side draft as an offensive move, where you would get up on a guy's quarter panel and stall him out, and it would give you a boost, and you'd pull away like jumping a boat wake and get out away from him so he could not do the same thing to you, and you would make a pass. That was an offensive way. That was how we used to use that with success. But now there's an extreme stall when you side draft a guy, and it really kills his car. But before you can get out and get away from him, it starts to kill your car, and you sort of sit there and just fight on each other's quarter panels until somebody tucks in behind one of you and pushes you through. So that's more frustrating You're not, you'd rather just make the move on your own and, move on to the next guy. But, you got to be open to those things changing. And when they do change, recognize it and understand it.
Let's go to Mike, Stan, and then Jenna.
Mike Hembry, USA Today. Dale, obviously everybody wants to avoid these kinds of wrecks we've seen with the cars reacting differently and so forth. But is there any more of a concern among the drivers when you see cars getting up in the fence, tearing fencing out, that sort of thing? Does that increase the awareness some or not?
It doesn't. We've seen accidents, bad accidents. But as a driver, we've seen those, we've seen that in the history of the sport for as long as I can remember and before my time. But as a driver, your gut feeling to your core is that you're as safe as you're ever going to be in that car, and that you worry about, driving your race and doing what you need to do, and you're not going to be in that situation, So I feel like that, there's still a lot to be learned as far as how to protect the spectators and how to do some things with the catch fence that can prevent things from going into the stands. And I think that NASCAR understands that, and we're obviously always learning and trying to learn and trying to improve. And unfortunately, those type of accidents give us some of the best knowledge that we can get to improve that situation. But as a driver, you don't worry about that. When you see that happen, that's just, man, that's unfortunate for that guy, and that's a rare occurrence, and that's not going to happen to me. So that's how I feel about it.
Let's go to Stan, Jenna, and then to Dave Coleman. Stan, over to the left.
Stan Creekmore with RPMTonight.com. Dale, when you talked about the side-by-side and such, a couple of the drivers who were involved in those incidents felt that they didn't have the same vision of what was behind them and beside them with this new car design. Do you agree with them? And how, if that does exist, do you adjust to it?
I don't really have a, I don't feel like I'm struggling to see or struggling to understand where cars are around me more than any other time down here. The way these cars, I don't feel like these cars are any different than the COT or even the generation before that. There's nothing about the A post or the B post or the C post that really annoys me. As far as being able to see out of the car, I think I am pretty satisfied with my vision out the front and out the back of the car and what my spotter's telling me. And the thing about it is that we sort of get, one of the things that I hear from people that watch these races and that I see myself and that my spotter sees is a car will get a run out of nowhere, almost seemingly. He'll be, we'll be running along in the pack, and then somebody in the middle of the pack will just find something draft related that'll just shoot their car up into a hole, and you always could predetermine what lane was going to move by how they were forming and how close they were together, and you could almost you could predetermine where you needed to be by seeing how people were lined up around you. But it seems like with this car and the way we sort of get stuck side by side in a side draft, guys are sort of finding big gaps of air, and their cars are just getting these boosts out of nowhere, and they'll come running up on you, and you like the other day in the Unlimited. I never knew the 9 was on the outside of me or even trying to go to the outside of me, or I wasn't really paying attention to him because I didn't think that him pushing me was keeping his car connected to mine. I didn't think he had enough power to push me, then pull out and go around me. That just isn't something you really see that often. But, you can underestimate the runs these guys are getting around you, and you'll be 3 wide more often than you know. And I think that was, that they were definitely 3 wide in that second accident in practice, and I think that a lot of those guys didn't know they were 3 wide, you know, because it was inches, you know, and just the way these cars are getting runs and stuff. But I can see fine out of my car. I'm not worried. I'm not concerned with the vision at all.
Let's go, Jenna, Dave, and Bob.
Jennifer, AP, Chase is driving for you now. It seems that whenever he's involved in an incident, whether it is his fault or not, he seems to take a lot of flack from other drivers. And it seems to be a recurring theme. I'm wondering why you think that is, and if you ever had to deal with any of that in your early career.
Well, I think that, you know, Chase is going to, you know, be under a different he's going to be under a microscope a little bit because of his last name and because the expectations set upon him and because of his alignment with Mr. H and maybe even with his alignment with us. You know, he's going to have a lot of expectations. But he has, you know, take for example the ARCA race where he had something to do with that accident. You know, everything around the guy that spun out, everything around him had some influence on him having, you know, losing control of his car. Casey had no intention of spinning the guy out. I don't think that he even thinks he done it. And maybe you could argue that he didn't spin the guy out, but just the way the air works, and that guy got tight and put a lot of wheel in his car, and Chase was right up on him. If he didn't hit him, he was an inch off of him. That's all it took. And you know, I think that I've done the same thing. I came down here. I can't remember. I think it was the second Daytona 5 or the second 300 I came to. And or maybe it was the July race. I can't remember, but we were out there practicing, and I was running down the front straightaway, drafting with Jeff Burton and a couple other people, Dick Trickle. And Michael Waltrip had pulled out on the track, and he was running. He just blended up on the track, and I was running. I had a run on somebody and pulled out to make a pass, and I was basically going 3 wide in the middle. Michael was about 50 mile an hour slower than we were. And just going by Michael that fast blew my car up into the guy beside me, and we all wrecked. I wrecked about 10 cars, and in practice. And so Jeff Burton and Dick Trickle were both in my garage within 10 minutes trying to chew my butt. And that was those things are going to happen, you know, to every driver that comes into this sport. And more importantly, I think it happens more often with guys like myself or Chase. Number one, because they're angry, but number two, because they expect more out of you. They expect you to know better than to do that because you're Bill Elliott's son or because you're Dale Earnhardt's son and you've been around this forever and you ought to know better. And they want you to know better. You know, as much as they were there to chew my butt, they were there to help me not to make that mistake again. And if I'm going to get it and going to make it, I'm going to have to learn not to make that mistake again. So, I mean, that's just going to be part of the process for Chase and part of the growing pains. But he's such a quick study, and he handles those situations really well. He doesn't, when he said, hey, I might have done it, I don't know if I've done it, he's sitting in the car driving there under caution with a pretty level head about the situation, which I felt pretty good about. He doesn't get excited. He doesn't badmouth. Well, he doesn't point fingers. Is that guy's fault or wasn't my fault? Or, he just, he's got a real level head and open mind about things, and I like that about him. I think that's going to benefit him as he's going through these growing pains and trying to process everything happening to him.
We've got to get him into the car for nationwide practice. We'll take 2 more questions. Dave and then Bob.
Dave Coleman, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Dale, in the decade or so that it's been since you actually won a plate race, with several close calls in between, has your appreciation changed for maybe what looked like a while ago was going to be pretty easy?
I don't know if I understand what you mean.
You have a greater appreciation for the wins, the plate wins.
Yeah.
That were coming like that.
I mean, well, those are different cars, and those were really good. Those cars were pretty amazing that I was driving back then. I would be honest that those cars should have won. Those are pretty fast cars. And I can't take as much credit as I'd like for how good those cars were back then, and how we had ourselves separated, I think, from the competition under the current rule package and the strict guidelines with the rear shocks and springs. And really there's no area that the teams are able to work in to set themselves apart from anybody. So everybody's pretty much got the same car these days, and it's a lot harder to win these races, and rightfully so. So I definitely appreciate the challenge that we have today. But if it were the same playing field, I suppose I would be asking myself a lot of questions. But it's changed so much since then, and at least that's my story.
Final question, Bob Pockris.
Bob Pockris, Sporting News. Kind of following up on that. I mean, you've been second in 3 of the last 4 Daytona 500s. Is there anything you can take from those, or because the cars keep changing, do you do more learning just this week as far as what to do at the end of the race?
Well, I think you're always trying to learn, and every time I go out on the track, I want to be around a pack of cars that I can learn from. Every time we practice for the rest of this week, I want to go out there and try to learn. Maybe my car, maybe we've changed something that makes my car do something it couldn't do, or maybe it does something better or worse that I need to pinpoint. So I'm eager every time we get an opportunity to go on the track to do that. And as far as just trying to win one of these races or not run second again. I think we need to be up front. I mean, we're not far enough to the front. When we've run second, we've came from 3rd or 4th or 5th or 6th on those last few laps, and you're not going to win the race from back there. No, you're going to run. You might run second, but you're not going to win. And we need to be leading the race. I'd much rather be leading this race tonight and the Daytona 500 inside of 5 laps to go than be anywhere else.
Dale, thank you so much, and good luck the rest of this week.